All right. It looks like we are live on Facebook.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for another stream. We're back on Facebook now. We've been on YouTube previously, but Alpha News got suspended from YouTube for broadcasting a Trump rally, but that's a whole nother issue. Anyway, we're glad to see you all here on Facebook. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, I'm your host, Kyle Hooton, and we are joined by the illustrious Father Altman. Father, thank you so much for being here.
Good to be here as always. Somebody once at the diocese come like, "You're on all these interviews," and I thought, well, what do you care what I'm doing at 6:30 at night?
Well, you're talking about theology and Catholicism at 6:30
exactly.
at night. That's
exactly.
a good thing.
Bringing grace to around the globe. You think they would be grateful, but
we
they
do.
don't.
We have a global audience. I mean, we have people that are literally overseas that tune in, not to see us, but to see you.
I think they tune in to hear truth because their own shepherds have failed them. Honestly, exactly. Why else would they listen to some loser down in La Crosse, Wisconsin? The whole idea is preposterous. So what is that? But okay, so I've said it before. I'll say it again. I think I said, oh, it says recording in progress. When I was up there in Minneapolis, I said, it's not that I'm so good, it's that they're so bad.
Yeah.
And what does that say? What kind of comments? It's no wonder they're mad at me or hate me because apparently I make them look bad. Well, how about if they just up their game? Is that too much to ask of a shepherd of the church? I don't think so. Sorry, I went off on the tangent there, but I was getting mad.
No, it's called contrast. When you have somebody that's doing their job faithfully, it really accentuates how bad the unfaithful are.
And I'm only doing what I'm supposed to be doing, right? And that's what Jesus said. He said, after you've done only what you're supposed to do, then say, I'm still a useless servant because I haven't gone beyond what I'm supposed to do. So I don't think of myself as doing anything really beyond. I'm just trying to do at least what I can do. So what aren't they doing? Well, here's an example. I know of a bishop. I know of, a predecessor, I won't say where, went out and did like 65 confirmations in the confirmation season, right? Because that's when the people actually get to see the bishop in person.
Right.
Go to the parishes. They'll have parish groupings that's the way it works in our diocese. Well, but I also know that this bishop did exactly like one last year. Well, the priest and individual priests had to do them, but if I can do them, why can't the priest over in that other diocese, or why can't the bishop in the other diocese do them? They're not doing their job. It's no wonder the people are mad, and they are. Yeah, that's what I've heard from around the world. They are mad. They're fight mad, and they still don't get it. They're so arrogant. They like the people are going to love them. No, you abandoned them, people. You shepherds, you abandoned them.
Exactly. And, we were just on the line yesterday with Father Lovell, and he had a very similar story. He tried to do his job by reporting about sexual impropriety in a place of Catholic education, and he got hit for it. So you have all these priests, Lovell, untold masses of others that are.
Well, listen, there are a dozen. There are a dozen down in that diocese, and Malloy better be shaking in his boots. He better not be getting any sleep. Because I'll tell you what, all for one and one for all, that we're done. We are done, and done with the tyrants, the little tyrants. He's the spawn of Weakland, right? But you know all about Weakland, and there he is. I think there's at least a dozen down there in his diocese. Lovell, as I understand it, has been without an assignment for 9 years. That means he hasn't been able to regularly hear the confessions of people, regularly baptize babies, regularly anoint them as they lay dying, regularly bring them the Holy Eucharist. How dare he dispermit, I guess, is that a word? Dispermit? Not permit a priest of God to do his job, to bring grace to the people. How dare he? Oh, listen, they're coming from Malloy. And you know what? Every other bishop that's listening, you better check your own little record there, buddy. We're done. Yeah. Well, we should be. You heard me say probably not one more penny. And that is the beginning of the we're done.
Yeah. I want to ask you specifically about that. Not one more penny, not one more dollar, this effort to defund the corrupt parts of the institution.
Well, that's a good way to put it. I never thought about that.
Yeah. From a sort of strictly financial or business perspective, how does that work? If people stop giving money to their specific church, won't those institutions just receive money from the Vatican, or how does that funding work? Because I'm really unclear on that.
No. I just get so annoyed when people say, "Oh, the Catholic Church has so much money." Listen, each parish I know I think we have 158 parishes in my diocese. Now there are only half a dozen that don't struggle with making ends meet every single year. And so, oh, sure, there's a piece of property there. That there's a church. You couldn't rebuild it in today's dollars for what it would cost, but it's not like it can be repurposed. So each parish struggles with this. So the diocese gets their support from each of the parishes. So each year we have to contribute X number of dollars to the support of the diocese. So I think St. James is somewhere around the mid $40,000, and so we have to raise that, and then send it right to them. So I appreciate the fact that the headquarters, the chancery, needs support from the parishes, but that's called the Bishop's Appeal. I think that's pretty much what's called everywhere in the United States, Bishop's Appeal, the annual appeal, but people don't want to give to the bishops anymore because why? They've abandoned them. They wouldn't let the priests do their job. They locked the churches. Even when good priests would have gone out there and done it anyway, they weren't allowed to, and they were afraid to even think about it because their bishop would have done to them what they're trying to do to me and everybody else, cancel them. So they don't get money from Rome. Money does not. It's a joke in seminary. Money never comes from Rome. It always goes to Rome.
Right.
So the sole source of support for any diocese begins in the pews of every parish, and then a portion of what is collected goes a percentage. They usually do it as a percentage. They figure out, if it's $6 million to support the diocese, and the seminarian budget, by the way, is about it's a quarter of the whole budget. It's a huge chunk. So then they apportion that amongst the parishes, like in a very proportionate way. So if you are getting 10%, if you got the biggest parish in the diocese, and you got, well, that'd be high 10%, say 5% of the revenues, you get 5% of the tax, as it were. It's really just a tax. That they figure out this is what they need for their operating budget, and this is what they tax each parish according to each parish's income. That is the only source. Oh, okay, I take that back. So sometimes they get like big donors will come in and give something that goes to we call those things those trust things where right. When you die, you give a chunk of money and it goes into like a fund, like a trust fund, and then you get the interest off of that for purposes of for supporting the diocese. So they have income from that as well. There's a fund there that I think gives them money every year. It's called St. Ambrose Fund. So, but money never comes from Rome to help us. Oh, no, it's the other way around.
So money only flows up. You put money in the offering plate of your parish, and it goes to support the bishop, who in many cases is corrupt. My one concern with the plan to defund these bishops, which I think is a good idea, is what happens to the parish, because they still have to have a priest and be able to operate in their community. What if you have a good parish under a bad bishop? What do you do then?
You mean, well, we could use St. James for an example.
Exactly. Yeah.
a great parish filled with one of the, can I do an aside?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so I just got this yesterday. So one of the complaints in this file of mine that they created, they cherry picked a bunch of stuff, right? One of the complaints is that there were some people that I'm divisive because people left the parish. Listen, every time a new priest comes, a certain percentage do leave the parish because they just can't stand the new guy because he's not the old guy. Right. So you would expect a certain percentage to leave. So we did an analysis there. I can't wait to show. Let them just bring it on. Listen, they dropped the gloves. I dropped mine too. I can't wait. They dare to say in their complaint that they're going to file about me that I've been divisive because people have left the parish. What we have is three little, they're women who are older, who just are bitter. And they formed a group. They said, we're just trying to coax and coach people to leave St. James and come to Cathedral, right? Yeah. I know who they are. Oh, yes, I know exactly who they are. I know how.
Sounds like a coven, sort of.
So what's that?
Like a coven, maybe.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say that. Anyway, so we did the analysis. Since March 1st of 2020, we've had 14 families leave the parish. Now, there's reasons why people could leave the parish. So they're moving out of town. But we've only had 14 families and 37 members leave, right?
Mhm.
In that same time period, we've had 46 families join the parish with 107 members minimally, right? That we know of. So imagine that. So you lose 14, you gain 46, triple.
32. That's a net gain of 32.
Exactly. And for a parish my size, that is astounding.
Yeah.
So yeah, bring it on, Chancery, and tell me I'm so divisive. Yeah, bring it on. I can't wait. You know, it's one thing if they talk about something that is, question of truth. Right. And then I would be the first one. I said, listen, if I have ever not spoken the truth, you tell me, because I'll correct it in a heartbeat. The last thing I want to do, as I said before, is not tell the truth. But when you lie, you make up stuff. Oh, he's divisive. They put that letter, that one woman that showed up in the whole AP report, right?
Yeah,
she's she's the one that said, oh, I didn't remember her name correctly. I don't, yeah. Well, if that's your worst complaint about me, I brought you Jesus, you silly goose. I'm being polite. Yeah. We brought the restoration of the glory of the Catholic parish. We brought a restoration of the glory of the sacred liturgy. We brought you Jesus, and you're complaining. I spent 4.5 hours on Saturday hearing confessions, 3 masses, 3 different masses, and 4.5 hours of hearing confessions, because I'm so divisive. I got done with daily mass today. I immediately had a baptism, and then I had a long confession that was pre-planned, that was asked if I could do it today. And then a complete stranger came up and needed spiritual direction. So I didn't get back to the house till almost 11 because I'm so divisive. Yeah, bring it on. I can't wait till they bring. Listen, I'm not the only one. I'm just the one that knows how to defend myself.
Right.
What these other shepherds are doing to those other priests. Oh, we're coming. We're coming. You're going to hear footsteps behind you. I think that's a saying, isn't it?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. No, that's what's so critical is you're not the only one. And that's why it's such an important issue. And that's why people are so interested to talk to you, because you're sort of the fighting tip of this very long spear. There's a lot of people behind it. But
anyway, that was a huge aside.
Yeah. To circle back to the question.
Circle back.
Yeah. Exactly. But what happens when you have a good parish under bad leadership? You stop putting money in the offering plate. I mean, how do you fix that?
I think the idea was not one more penny toward the bishops directly. And if you're in a parish that's a good parish like St. James, you support St. James. Now, here's a little bit of advice. So each year, you run a certain amount of utilities.
Yep.
You have certain employee costs. Certain maintenance and repairs. That's a huge one, because every church building is kind of old. And then you have projects that you need to work on. So for instance, we're still trying to get this ramp built. I was hoping to get her done this summer, but I'm being distracted by this attack by my own chancery. So people can give specifically. Here's it: canon law and civil law are the same in this. Okay. If you give money to a particular parish for an earmark it as the donor controls. So if he says, I want this to go for a new elevator, or I want this to go for the new ramp, or I want this to go for a little chairlift up in the choir loft. That's what we're going to hopefully try and do yet this summer too, if I'm still here. You can designate it for a purpose. And I say you wanted to buy a new statue of our Blessed Mother, right? I'm going to put it up there on the wall above her altar. And you donate, say, $6,000 for this magnificent statue. And then I decide, well, yeah, I think I really want, I don't know, new altar linens or something stupid. Obviously they're not the same in cost, but I spent something other than the designation. Now, you're not allowed to do that, right?
Okay.
So for instance, there was a donor who died, left a huge sum to St. James, and it's for the benefit of St. James, and yet it seems to be being taxed as part of our income. And I'm thinking, that's not what the donor said. I get an argument about this, but I haven't brought that up yet.
You might have some other issues to deal with first.
So anyway, to support a parish, you support the parish specifically with specific designated funds. And in the end, you know as well as I do that there were some priests that just were broken by the fact that they couldn't feed their families.
Yeah.
Right? There were others who kind of enjoyed the fact that they didn't have to work quite so hard. I was working twice as hard because I was going to people's house.
Yeah.
But as I said, you could find the priest who could work within the protocols and get you fed.
Yeah.
Support that priest.
Yeah.
And then as to the other ones that weren't worth their salt, well.
Yeah. No, but this is a very important clarification, because aside from the criticism you're facing from your total enemies, the most common criticism I hear from, people on our side is, well, I like my priest, I like my church, I want them to be able to do things and upkeep the building. But this is very important. You've now explained that you can simply earmark your donation to say, this is not for church leadership, this is for my specific church. And even for a specific cost, if you know that your church needs a new elevator or needs some upgrades, you can mark it specifically for that. So very important clarification. We really appreciate that.
Well, but I thought it was, forgive me, I thought it was actually clear when I said not one more penny. I was talking about those bad shepherds that lock the churches and harass the good priests. We're done with that, right?
Yeah.
So,
no, people understand that you're going after church leadership, but not a lot of people, myself included, until recently understand the exact financial relationship between the bishop and the parish.
Well, I know you didn't, because you just thought money comes from Rome. Oh, that.
I assumed the broader institution would support the churches, but I guess not.
No, listen, I tell you why, because Peter's Pence is too busy buying $250 million apartment buildings in London.
Wow.
You know about that, right?
See, this leads in perfectly to my next question. My next question is, you mentioned a lot of things in every conversation we have. You mentioned some very relevant current event like you just did, or you mentioned some concept or some talking point that's related to this struggle that you're currently engaged in. Not a lot of people have the same background you have. What are some places people could go to for the common talking points, the common arguments, and the sources that you're citing? If they're new to the fight, they're impassioned about what you're saying, but they don't have the same knowledge base, where should they turn?
Yeah. Well, I can think of off the top of my head, I don't want to make anybody mad at me, but complicit clergy is for scandal in the church. Well, Alpha News, of course, but complicit clergy, I think, is more church oriented. You've got news of all kinds of things going on with you guys.
Exactly.
But complicit clergy is huge. LifeSite News is amazing. They have, and they, so I tell you how current they are, and how when I read it, I had to take a period of not reading it because I was getting mad every day. Because they are very thorough too. And the third is that I know of church militants that, at least for me, these are the things that I would look to see, well, what's going on in the church? Who's telling us the truth, right? Not giving us some party line, telling us the truth. I know there's Virgin Most Powerful Radio out in, I think it's in LA, that I've done some interviews with. They're good, but I'm not that they're the whole different setup that they got going there. But for being able to go on the computer, click on something, and see, as I said, LifeSite News. Well, first complicit clergy, but LifeSite News is, I think, a bigger organization. So they have all these links to various things, and then Church Militant now has started. Michael Voris, the guy. Yeah, I love John Henry Weston. I got to bless his son on his 10th. I think it was his 10th birthday.
Oh, that's very cool.
It was amazing. He says, "Here's my son. It's his birthday. Would you give him a birthday blessing?" Is before we. Do you know what that does to a father's heart? My goodness. Today the baptism. That baby was born on the day I was ordained, my anniversary, at like 1:30 in the morning, and it was only 2 days old. I got to hold it on Mary's altar when the parents dedicated the baby to Mary, which is what we do. In all our baptisms, the parents put the baby on the altar. Just, you remember, they brought Jesus to the temple. Well, this is the way we always used to do it, by the way, in the old rite, in the traditional rite. They got rid of all this beauty, this glory. Do you know, Fulton J. Sheen said, my parents dedicated me to our Blessed Mother when I was being baptized, right? He says, I was obviously too young to know about it, but that mark stayed with me my entire life. Yeah. So anyway, we did that too. So I got off track there. What was I talking about?
Well, real quick, I want to contrast that. Have you seen this viral meme of sorts where a priest has a water gun and he's using the water gun to spray a baby to baptize?
I thought
because COVID distancing. You've seen this, right?
I have seen it. I thought that somebody's like fact checked it, and it was more like a charade. but it wasn't.
Okay.
So I could be wrong, but nevertheless, the fact that we think it could be right tells us how bad it is when that even could be a possibility of being right. I know I was talking about John Henry Weston and then Michael Boris, who set up this amazing organization down there, Detroit. It's a suburb of Detroit, and he has a new 6 o'clock. It's roughly around 6 o'clock, I think, Central Standard Time. Maybe it's 5 Eastern Standard Time. A news thing where it's almost an hour long, and he gives you all the current stuff too. And a little story. And they have. Listen, I saw it live, and his equipment that desk he's on changes colors. It's glasses, just like they have on ESPN or something like that. That is the exact same thing. So the question on the table was, to whom shall I go that can at least keep me informed on a regular basis what the heck is going on? And so I would say complicit clergy, life site, church militant. And if you do, give a shout out to John Henry Weston and Michael Boris for me, because I'm not allowed to say who's in complicit clergy. It's still kind of a mystery to me, but I think I have an idea. But I'm sworn to secrecy on that one.
Yeah, I don't know either. I couldn't tell you. These are all very important. What were you saying about a $250 million apartment building?
Oh, you don't know?
I don't know.
Oh gosh, this is listen, the Vatican Bank. Who ran the Vatican Bank? George Pell, right? Cardinal Pell. What did they trump up and frame him with? Some preposterous big lie down there in Australia. And they had some vixen, can you say wench on the show? I mean, just a vicious, that's better than the B word, but that's what she was. And so they went after him, and I don't know, I think he might have spent a year in jail or something like that. And it was all the court down there, the Supreme Court, like threw it out because it was a bunch of baloney, and they knew it at the time. See, they know this, right? Well, he was the one that was starting to expose the scandal at the Vatican Bank. He and Vigano knew all about this, and so that's what happens. See, if they think you know something, they try to frame you for something, so they have something over your head so that you keep your mouth shut. Well, they haven't done that to me yet. I'm just waiting. I expected. I'm shocked it hasn't happened already, where they just try to come up with something. So, but you know what? Here's what they're not counting on. I don't care. I don't care what you accuse me of. But anyway, so one of the scandals was this Peter's Pence, right? We just were supposed to have a collection a couple weeks ago. Nobody's giving to Peter's Pence anymore. And the reason they're not giving it to it is because it was supposed to be this money that was supposed to go into the Pope's hands. And then he would dole it out as he saw worthy and appropriate. Now, granted, he's not sitting there every day managing this fund and making sure that this goes here or this goes there. But among the many things that they did wrong that Vigano and Cardinal Pell were exposing them was they spent $250 million, I think it was, for some apartment building or office building or something like that in like downtown London. Right? That has nothing to do. Peter's Pence is supposed to be helping the poor. So they put the and then I don't know if it was about the time that big global economic collapse or something happened, or something just happened. Anyway, it went down in value 50%. So it's only like worth 125 million. I'm not sure what it is now, but so they lost 125 million dollars. These are Peter's Pence means everybody gives from their pennies that they have to try and help. That's why I said money only goes in the direction of Rome. It never comes back our way.
These people probably spend more time saving souls and less time speculating on real estate. That's 50%.
Ouch. That is exactly right. But how that truth hurts. That's exactly right. What have they done for the last 15 months? Have they concentrated on eternal salvation, which is the only thing that matters? Or are they worried about whether I get a cough from something where 99.9% of people recover? I said it this morning at Holy Mass. I was on fire this morning, but it might have been the last time there too. So who knows? So I said, listen, it doesn't matter if you get sick. I heard from a few people, right? I got it and I didn't even know I had it. That's how I was not affected by it at all. Not even the slightest bit. But other people, they're under the weather for a week or two, or sometimes they can't taste for a month. They just can't taste, right? Well, listen, every year there's some new virus, some new flu. You get sick. I don't like getting sick. I hate getting sick. I hate puking. Can I say that? I hate it. So I'd rather be sick with the flu for 4 days and just get, puke and get it over with, which is what seems to happen. But anyway, so let's say few people even had that happen to them. But so there's always going to be something that's going to get us sick. You can't prevent that. That's living. And I said, this has been the case since Adam and Eve brought sin and death into the garden, got kicked out as a consequence. You're now going to get sick and you're going to die. Well, you don't shut down the globe and you don't destroy people's lives, literally, and then make them into a Marxist organization, because that's exactly what it's become. Oh, here, have another government handout that we're printing up money out of thin air. Yeah. So that is not the bishop's concern, not one of them. When I saw an empty St. Peter's Square on a very important day, wasn't it around Triduum last year, something like that? Mm-hmm. I thought, as if you could, even if you feared the worst, as if you couldn't have just social distanced a few people there. You've got one job, and that's to lead the world to eternal salvation. And you look about that totally empty St. Peter's Square. That was a disgrace to the Catholic Church. We're supposed to lead people even in the face of death. That's what the martyrs are for. In the face of death, we lead them to eternal salvation. If that's not what you want to do, then get out. Yeah. Wow. That's why people are so sick of them. All of them that did not lead them in the face of death. What cowardice. They go, it's abundance of caution. Oh, baloney. You're a bunch of darn cowards.
People sometimes lose track of the gravity of what it is you're talking about. You are literally talking about an eternity in heaven or hell. Yeah. I mean, these are the things that are worth getting worked up about, if anything is worth getting worked up about.
Thank you. That is exactly right. If you're going to get worked up about something, how about eternal salvation? Don't talk to me about getting a cough, something from which 99% and full well, the CDC and everybody else has lied to us from the beginning. The CDC knowingly, intentionally lied to us about having a mask on outside when they knew full well it was less than, they didn't even have data for it, but they said it was less than 1% of 1%. So, I mean, an infinitesimal amount they thought might get it outside. So everybody should wear a mask outside. Are you out of your minds? What a terrible, horrible thing to do. When you see children in masks, kids who can't get sick, like 1 out of 100 million, but there's a lot more going to die from other causes.
This is the part where you get banned from Facebook. So I'm going to circle back again to something you said. No, it's no problem. Sorry. You mentioned earlier you were giving a mass, and you have to consider every time you're up there that it could be your last time up there. That sort of leads in nicely. Last time we spoke, less than a week ago, 6 days ago, you were talking about how you're expecting the other shoe to drop any day now. Has there been any update on that?
I know that. Okay, so we had to have just bring it up to date. We had to have our answer late Friday afternoon before closing time. And then this was ordination weekend and all sorts of stuff. So everybody's really busy, that kind of stuff. And then what's today? Today's Wednesday? So I fully expected that they would have some sort of big meeting on Monday, but of course, Monday's supposed to be the day we're supposed to have off. So I guess it didn't. And maybe they had one on Tuesday. So today's Wednesday. And still nothing. Now they have, if they're going to try to put someone in on the 1st, that's going to be really hard to do, because even if I could move out and I can't, it's going to take me a couple months. But you get, just so you know this, so everybody out there knows this, that little stunt Supich pulled on Kolchak in Chicago, he should be tarred and feathered and thrown out of the diocese, the archdiocese, for what he did to Kolchak, that little tyrant. He's one of the ones that hates me, by the way. Well, bring it on, Blaze. Anyway, he kicked out Kolchak in like one afternoon, right? No.
Oh,
listen.
Okay.
So when, like for instance, when I came down here to St. James, I was up at Peter and Paul, and normally you get like 2 months warning before you even have to make the announcement on the first weekend in May that you're being asked to move, and you've agreed you said yes to the bishop's request, because that's all it is, a request, and you can say no. Other people did say no. That's why I ended up having to come here in the first place. Mm-hmm. So so normally you get about a month, 2 months advance warning of that first weekend in May, and then you don't have to move until the 1st of July. So typically 3 to 4 months, you can wrap things up, get your stuff packed, casually get ready to move. Right? Mm-hmm. What Blaze did to that good priest, Father Kolchak in Chicago, is an utter disgrace. Blaze, I'll tell you what, you can be thankful I'm not in your archdiocese. You can be thankful for that. Not that he's not going to see me again. There. Anyway, so it's going to take me a couple months, and that is a minimum that we're supposed to have to begin with. This kicking people out like they did to poor Father Parker down there, Malloy, that David Malloy, David. David, I'm fully aware of what the stunts you've been pulling. And look at my face, David. You're going to remember this one. Anyway, so a couple months. All right. So the problem is that let's say they appoint somebody that they want to be here as the administrator while I make this appeal to Rome. Well, okay. Well, I didn't know where he's going to be living, but it isn't going to be here for at least a couple months. I'm targeting September 15th. This is what happens. So I don't know. I'm shocked that I haven't had any news yet. Okay. And not because, you know what? First of all, I've complimented Bishop Callahan more times than I can count. And I know in my heart that the last thing he wants to do is act like a jerk, like Supich did, or like Malloy did. That is not in him. I mean, whatever flaws each one of us has, and we all have them, and I do too. People point them out to me all the time. Bishop Callahan is a heart that loves his priests and his people. I think he's just a bit misguided on the level of, well, that's why he, unlike most other bishops, let us bring grace to the people under great restrictions that were not appropriate given the fact that the government allowed 1,000 people in Walmart. But nevertheless, he bucked the system and let us do this. Why? Because he actually cares. Right. So he's not going to be an idiot about it. Right. I don't believe that. There's no way he's going to say, I want you out. Well, plus it'd be a huge public relations disaster because the people love my parents because they wave at them in the window all the time. So anyway, so whether I stay or if I have to go, I'll probably be here for a couple months. Listen, nobody likes packing in the middle of summer heat either, let me tell you. So, but I don't know. I don't know how they can get somebody here to take care of all the things that have to be taken care of in a parish. This is a hard job. Yep, it is a hard job. People think I put in a couple hours on the weekend and I have the rest of the week off. Oh, for goodness sakes, no. It's hard. It's a daily thing. There's cost every day. There's a problem.
If you're doing it right. If you're doing it right.
If you're doing it right. So, so I don't know. I don't know what their game plan is. They should have just, I've said it before. I think I may even set it up there. All he had to have done was when these wolves on the left came after me, simply say, listen, I don't like his manner and tone, but I can't fault his truth.
Right.
He might be divisive to some, but you know what? There's a legitimate constituency of people who I won't go into those topics you don't want me to go on about, but they are legitimate and they're a legitimate constituency and they are entitled to have a shepherd speak to them the truth, not keep it underground. So that's all I had.
This is what I keep wondering, because they went after you really hard, and now suddenly you're on platforms like Alpha News and others that aren't especially religious. Of course, we have religious people working here, but we're not an explicitly Catholic platform. And you're out here talking about these deep corruption issues on these secular platforms. You've become a worse problem to them now than before they'd gone after you.
I know they should have just kept their mouth shut, right?
Just let it go.
Listen, I didn't, honestly, as I live in Greece, so this is what, 4 weeks? What Pentecost Sunday was, I think, May 23rd. So maybe we're on to, this is the 5th weekend coming up.
Sure.
I had no idea. Literally, if you asked me to plan to say something on Pentecost Sunday that somehow would give rise to what has happened in the last 5 weeks, I wouldn't even know where to start. I honestly, I can't, I don't even have time to worry about that kind of stuff. I'm just too busy trying to feed my family. Yeah. So what they did, and I thanked them for this before, there's those two, talk about your coven, those two women down at La Crosse Tribune that went after me. I said, thank you, because you have just spread the message in ways I never could have. And you know what? Well, I won't go there because I don't want you to get, what is it? You don't want to get canceled from?
Yeah. You mentioned that Supich and Malloy are going to see your face again. I have no doubt that you're going to keep pushing this fight. What specifically do you mean here? And what is the next step? What's the logical evolution of this fight that you've launched? Because for the last year, you've been spreading the message. It's been very effective. And I bet it's going to go somewhere. Yeah.
Oh, again, nobody would listen. Nobody, if I said well, first of all, I've always been invited. I don't go inviting myself somewhere. Somebody says, can you speak somewhere? And if I think it's for the good of the parish, because it redounds financially beneficially to the parish when we're being taxed so heavily by the diocese. I've done a lot of fundraising for this parish that it seems to be underappreciated down there at HQ. Well, anyway, So what people have done is once they see just one, it only took one, it only took Vigano to bring down McCarrick and all his cabal. Well, they're still in there, some of them, you know, and who were McCarrick's buddies? Just it's very easy to research this and find out who was in bed with him, sometimes literally. So,
Sure.
I know. Well, okay, but I'm speaking the truth.
Yeah.
Boys, seminarians, and priests. And they knew it. Donald Wuerl, he knew it in Washington, D.C. He knew it in 2004. It was part of the file in Rome in 2004. They knew this.
Is there some central place that is documenting all of this? Like, is there a website you can go to and learn about these different networks of corruption in the church? And if not, why has nobody made one?
Yeah, complicit clergy. And, okay, complicit clergy, Lifesite News, and church militant.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't say who's complicit clergy. I think I have an idea, but I can't say anyway. John Henry Weston, who's just a rock of faith, and Michael Voris, I love church militant. That's not mean he's not being mean, right? We are the church militant. The church triumphant's in heaven. The church militant is here on earth. So he chose his name wisely. That was a brilliant inspiration he had. So you go to them and listen every day, more revelation comes out about what's all going on. And for instance, do you know did you see? Oh, I hate to bring this up. Can I bring it up?
I don't know what you're going to say, but go for it.
It's nothing about those things that get you canceled. Right?
Yeah.
So I was aware, and I have spoken to, they sought me out to talk to me.
Okay.
Some people that are in and behind this massive lawsuit against the North American College. And I want to don't misquote me on it. I'm just saying, as I try to comprehend it, they dismissed seminarians because the seminarians wouldn't do their bidding. Do you remember St. Charles Lwanga? And that king wanted him and his companions to do things they knew they didn't want to do.
Right.
So he executed them. Well, they didn't execute people, but they destroyed their lives.
Right. Social execution.
Yeah. And there was a huge cover up. Well, it just came out like in the last couple of days. 30 bishops. Look, it's on complicit clergy. There, just go look. It's on complicit. They had 30 bishops and 30 faces, and it included such people as Dolan in New York. I'm not making this up. That's what it says. If he wants to defend that, go right ahead. But some names that are, not that guy too. You just think so. But anyway, so that's. I forget why we were talking about that. Oh, I just mentioned, because this is what you find out every day. Complicit clergy, Lifesite News, John Henry Weston, church militant, Michael Voris. You'll find out, and you'll get so sick of it. But that's what happened. See, here's what happened. Everybody was afraid to say anything about the scandals as they were ongoing because they were the ones that would get targeted and kicked out. And that's what happened to these people in Rome. Mm-hmm. And that's why now nobody wants to say anything because they'll get sidelined. They'll get to that guy that you had on 9 years. He's been without an assignment.
Yeah.
By the Malloy, the spawn of Weakland. Yeah. Wow. Anyway, so I can't remember if I answered the question or not.
I always think every time we talk about this stuff, somebody should get together and produce one comprehensive documentary. You could present it in coordination with Lifesite and all these other people, and we could make a documentary that details how this occurred over the last X amount of years, because people understand in politics that things don't happen overnight and that corruption is, the result of a centuries-long series of manipulations. But no one has really made one cohesive document or documentary that shows how the same exact thing happened in the Catholic Church.
I'm in process.
Really?
Hand Books wants to publish my book. And
there you go.
Yeah, because I've talked about it a few times, how when you search your way back, I mean, it can go all the way back. People like to say to the Enlightenment. It all goes back to hell itself to begin with, right? I mean, since the garden. But I mean, just for what's gone on in America, ever since Dearden in Detroit started Call to Action, which was an apostate organization, asking for everything anti-Catholic, like those nuns on the bus kind of stuff. So women's ordination, artificial contraception, blessing same-sex marriages, all the stuff that abortion's okay. That guy was a nightmare, but he was the leading cleric in the church at the time, and he was hugely influential and Vatican II. Then from him came, I think the next spawn out of him was Bernardine in Chicago.
Mhm.
And then who I understand from several sources did such things as satanic worship, even over in
Wow.
Vatican. And I mean,
Wow.
there's a lot of documentation as to this stuff, right? And then as to then from him came McCarrick, and then usually all you do is you start looking at, like, you know how like a tree has a tree trunk, and then the branches
Right.
start coming out like this, right?
Right.
And there are some sites, and I think complicit clergy actually does a really good job of this. It gives you the tree branches. And so when you look at Weakland, and then you see the tree branch being Malloy in Rockford, who's done such terrible things to those priests down there,
Right.
and to the people as a consequence. It's not even like I'm defending just priests here. I'm defending
Right.
the faithful who have been denied access to sacramental grace because that loser has sidelined them in a such. But nobody calls them out on it, right? Because nobody in their diocese, right? Because what? They'll be number 13.
Right. Right.
No, it's all listen, here's what I think they're shuddering and they're losing sleep at night because they realize the dam is broken.
Yeah.
You know, because we are done with them.
What is the scope of this book going to be about? Because I mean, there's so much ground to cover. You have Satan worship in the Vatican. You have priests getting canceled in just Midwestern towns in America. There's so much to talk about. How do you even begin approach? How do you even approach a story like that?
Yeah, that's why it's taking forever to write, isn't it?
Yeah.
I thought that if there was any good, hey, they should be listening to this. Supich, Blaze, if you're listening, right? Wilton, if you're listening, if I get temporarily sidelined, I'm going to have all the time I need to do research. You know what? I've been an expert researcher since I was in undergraduate school. And back in, I graduated in 81 with the first degree in psychology. And other people were hiring me to help them with their research and to do the statistical analysis. They were paying me to do this. And let me tell you, back then, $20 was a lot of money. And then when I was in law school, I was employed by the law school to teach other law students how to do research. And that's why I helped pay my way through law school. And I've just done that research. If I have a skill set, again, I probably am not very good. I was going to use a really crass term for that. If I'm not really good at many things, which is true, remembering people's names, I'm lost. I can't do it.
Yeah.
But I'm really good at research and writing. So again, if this door closes, boy, this door of writing these books that the editors they just talked again last week to get going. And so I've written some of it already, and it's just, but it takes time. And I'm the kind of guy that, like, when you get in a production line, you just need to sit without distraction and just work on it instead of every 5 seconds being this, that, and the other thing, like his parish life is.
Right. So it seems like you're sort of holding a dead trigger here, because the timeline for this book coming out is also the timeline for how they're going to act against you. So if they act against you faster, the book comes out faster.
Yes, it does. Oh, yes. Yes, it does. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not saying that in a malicious way. Like, I don't have anything against anybody. I just want you to do your job, which means you don't pick on priests. Have you noticed, by the way, that they always pick on, listen, they didn't laicize child molesters. They didn't take away the faculties of child molesters. That's, that one line alone. They didn't mess with child. They let child molesters do what they kept doing and covered up for them, and then covered up for the bishops and covered up for them. And they're coming after good and holy priests that are just trying to do the sacred liturgy with a little bit of devotion.
Yeah.
How sick is that? And that's, this is something, and what? Everybody understands this. They have 4 billion plus reasons to understand this here in the United States alone, that they covered up child molesters and let them keep doing it. Mm-hmm. And yet they're coming after somebody who just wants to celebrate the mass with some incense, some candles on the altar, little aurientum, facing God, because after all, we come to worship God, not have fellowship with ourselves. So they are horrible. And the number that are like that is staggering, but you can see it because it looks like that. There's 5 dioceses in Green Bay or in Wisconsin, right? Green Bay is one of them. Milwaukee, Madison, La Crosse, Superior. We have always known Superior was a disaster for sacred liturgy and crazy stuff going on up there. And the good and holy priests coming up had suffered because they had to live in that. And the people, crazy libs, right? they would give these beautiful holy priests a hard time.
Mhm.
Well, lo and behold, then the guy up there goes out to, I think it's Idaho, which is like the whole state is just one diocese.
Yeah.
And he forbid them, if I understand correctly, fact check me on it, I'll correct it. But I understand that he forbid the entire state from celebrating the holy sacrifice of the Mass facing Jesus. Right? Oh, it's too divisive. What? Hey, Bishop, what about the ones that want want to go to Mass to worship God instead of having a little fellowship with themselves, which is what we're supposed to do? Like, what about them? They're now we're divisive. Oh, no, Bishop, you're the divisive one because you're. What about those priests now that are? Well, I won't go there. But anyway, point being, they're after the good and holy priests, and that goes right up to the top here in this Catholic Church. Those ones that there's some of those in Rome are just hate us. Do you know what? 75% of my baptisms come from one Mass, the Latin Mass. 75%. So what does that tell you? Who's faithful and who's producing babies? Yeah. Exactly. Where the young people are is the future, and it's not the crazy Novus Ordo crap you put us through since Vatican II.
And it comes back to what's been such a consistent theme throughout, talking to you over the last year. If they wouldn't have kicked the anthill, none of this would be happening to them. If they had let the priest face the Lord, if they had let, some churches turn a blind eye to churches opening up during COVID, we wouldn't be sitting here talking about book deals and Satanism in the Vatican. I mean, none of this would have had to happen. They brought this on themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Now, before you think I just gone off my rocket here, just remember, what did Pope St. Paul VI say? The smoke of Satan has entered. He didn't say, oh, they're having some rough times. There's a little sin. No. That canonized Pope said the smoke of Satan has entered the Vatican. Well, he knew what he was talking about. What do you think? He was just, hey, you know what? Okay, there it is. See that up there? See that windswept house up there? James Martin hates me for that. That windswept house book kind of tells you exactly all about those. If you go get the right, it's online. You can get it. The cast of characters. The name in the book represents this particular cast of characters. Malachi Martin knew exactly what he's talking about. So yeah. So, but they, like you said, if they wouldn't have kicked, what'd you call it? The hornet's nest or the ant's nest or something like that?
Oh yeah, they kicked the ant's nest. Yeah, anthill.
If they would have just let us be, but they didn't. No, because why? Because we convict them.
Yeah.
As truth does, and they hate the truth. What did Jesus say? He said that they hate me, they hate you. I'm the way, the truth, and the life. And if they hate me, they're going to hate you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. I'm not disturbed by the fact, but I'm not going to sit there and let the haters have their way. And too much of that's been going on. And fortunately, people are finally catching on to all this woke business. They're catching on, realizing that they've been sold a bill of goods. They've been lied to. I can't stand that.
Being mindful of our time here, I just have one more question.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I haven't been paying attention. I never do.
Oh, no, it's been good. But this is a bit of a tangential question. Yeah. How does the smoke of Satan enter the Vatican? Because I've always conceptualized the Vatican as a place full of extremely holy people, very pious people. What would motivate somebody who has ascended to such a high level in the church to turn so sharply and to engage in satanic practices? How does that even occur?
Yeah. Well, you just said we don't have much time left, and look at the question you asked.
We can take as much time as we need, but
all right. Okay, so here's the deal. So people like Bella Dodd and that sort of stuff have told us. Our Blessed Mother warned us, right? Leo the 13th had his vision that warned us. This is what's coming. These people went into the church. Well, here you go. If you look at the life of some of the worst actors like McCarrick. I understand, and again, you can fact check me on this. I don't care. But things like fatherless homes, neglect and abuse, alcoholism, all that stuff, that they raise up these sons who then turn out to be like McCarrick, a molester of boys and seminarians. And then has the audacity. Remember he did this. He finally came out of that place, that Franciscan place over in Kansas or something like that. And he said, oh, I'm not as bad as Vigano says I am. I think, oh no, you're right. You're much worse. Right? Anyway, they don't really believe in God. And here's why. So like Fulton Sheen said it best. It's like 99% atheists don't not believe so much in God. It's just that they can't accept that God exists, because if they have such suffering in their lives that if God is all powerful, God would stop the suffering. Or if he was all loving, he would love me enough to stop the suffering. So either he's not all powerful or he's not all loving. Or if he is, he doesn't love me because I'm in pain and I'm suffering. So consequently, you turn against God. And when you turn against someone that you think has hurt you, right? I don't hate people that the people you hate are the people closest to you that hurt you. That, if you should have known better is the logic that human brains go through. To a spouse, you should have known better. If you love me, you would have known better. Somebody else can be rude, like, I don't know, say something. I don't want to say a state because I don't want to pick on people of any state. I'd pick some other state than Wisconsin. They're mean to me. I say I go to the gas station and they're just rude to me behind the counter. Right. Well, I don't get too shook up about them. I don't lose sleep over it because they don't know me. I don't have expectations of them, right? We all have an expectation that God is all powerful and all loving. And so if you are suffering pain and you are formed badly by the life circumstance that you have, what do you do when you're mad at somebody? You do something to hurt them because they hurt you, right? It's basic. This is basic human psychology. So these miscreants in the upper echelons had an agenda to take over and pay back God for letting them suffer. And so they denied truly the existence of God, or they make up something like, nobody really goes to hell. Right. So that's a very, very simplified version. But when you start looking at some of the cast of characters, I told you I started doing some of this research, right? When you look at the cast of characters and you find out what their background was, which usually involves fatherless homes, abusive fathers, domineering mothers, and then they go into the church. And then they wreak havoc, giving God paybacks. They're mad at God. That's one huge reason that applies to some of them. Some just simply don't believe in God. If they're raised like in the communist Russia, was when they tried to infiltrate the church, and they all listen. I'm just here, and here's you will understand this. I'm just down here at my little old parish, St. James the Less, right? Perfectly content. They came after me.
Yeah. So these people that are using the church as a vehicle to get back at God, do you think they're doing this consciously and intentionally, or do you think it's just sort of what's happened to their psyche after years of trauma and abuse?
Right. If you tried to ask anybody who was acting irrationally for an explanation, they couldn't give you one because they are irrational. Right. If you tried to ask somebody like a McCarrick, why did you do that? Why didn't you try to find healing in the grace God gives everyone who asks for it? Why didn't you go that route instead of this power, this narcissistic power domineering? Why? They won't be able to answer the question because they have and once sin darkens your mind, right? So in your soul. So once you start down that pathway into sin, it only gets darker and darker. And with less light, you're less able to see why you do what you do. So I don't know that anybody literally set out, okay, today I'm going to do everything I do so I can finagle myself into some position of power and then destroy the church from within. I don't know that anybody really does that, or could even think that through, or could succeed even if they did, except Satan will somehow manage to, when he asked God for more power and more time, God gave it to him, just like in Job, right? I need more, I need to make him suffer. But people with that, like, I'm just happy and content to be here. I had no aspirations and no ambition. We always knew in seminary that some of these guys had ambition, right? And we always said, watch out for those guys. That's what we were always taught. Watch out for the guys with ambition. There's something not quite right there, because who wants to be a bishop? Nobody. But these guys did, and they had an agenda, and then they did everything they could to pursue the agenda and get in place people of a like mind, which, by the way, is very easy to do. They figured out very quickly who would sleep with them. It's as bad as that.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Not to be looking at specks in other people's eye when I've got a log in my own, but it seems like this greed and this ambition is sort of what opens the door to Satan, to sin.
Yeah.
And then that is used as the vehicle to drive these other anti-Christian behaviors. You have a greedy person who's a striver. They want to climb through the ranks. And then that is subverted by the forces of evil into doing all of these other things.
All right, here's another thing that you should take in the whole. I mean, there's so many facets, and you said we don't have much time. Let's say you're a deeply wounded person.
Okay.
And what's her name there? She's Lady Gaga, right? She writes this very famous song, "Born That Way."
Oh,
and
yeah.
So what you have to do is you have to say, I am a loving human being, and it can't be that there's anything wrong with me when I am who I am, without considering how our psychosexual development developed. Mm-hmm. What is wrong with me? What was broken in me by things out of my control that have wounded me out of normality. Mm-hmm. And now you even talk like that. They go nuts. Mm-hmm. Because then it's as if they're saying they're not affirming them in sin. And that's, so now let's say you have McCarrick, right? He's an easy target. And so he gets into a position of power, and internally, whether he articulated it this way or not, and I don't think he's stupid. Listen, these people aren't stupid. You have to have a certain, something going on upstairs to be able to attain to what they attain to, a certain manipulative, orchestrating kind of a intentionality. So you get to this position of power, and you don't want to say that there's something wrong with me. What you want to say is there's something wrong with the rule from Almighty God that says there's something that's not quite right. And so what you try to do is you try to get the church, the teaching, to change, to validate and affirm, and isn't that what's going on in our culture today? Sin. And just go read Paul's letter to Romans chapter 1, verses, I think it's 18 to 32, explains it completely. So that's what they did, because if you could get the church to normalize, to change, and it's incremental how they've achieved this, right? And get culture to change. Ultimately, what you do, here's the end game. If you understand the end game, then you can see the incremental steps. The end game is anything but the example of the Holy Family is contrary to Christianity, contrary to the Catholic Church, contrary to the teaching of Almighty God. Well, clearly that's man, woman, male, female, children. Anything contrary to that, and that includes artificial contraception, it includes cohabitation, because you're not supposed to be doing that either. That's not a holy family, living under the blessing of God through the sacrament of matrimony. That's the only one that counts, by the way. So so if you can normalize anything contrary to that, you suddenly make God, not real, not true. There is no God. Because I've now decided for myself, this is as old as Adam and Eve, I've now decided for myself what is right and wrong. So behind it all is satanic destruction of Christianity and the belief in God. That's what actually is behind all this. And you can see it because McCarrick would be, and here's a better current example, those German bishops and cardinals, right, that are trying to promote blessing of same-sex marriages. And normalization, women's ordination, the whole thing. It's like call to action all over again. We panned that in 1965, said it was apostate then. They just don't give up, right? So what I say to myself when I see those people that are promoting this kind of stuff, I say to myself, what are you trying to validate within yourself? Like what's going on in your own personal life there that you're trying to validate and say, I'm okay. You're okay. I'm okay. All that pop psychology out of the 70s. But like Cardinal Marx over there, I think is one. He submitted his resignation. Guess who didn't accept it? Rejected his resignation. Oh, that's right, the Bishop of Rome. But when Archbishop Chaput, who was a good and holy shepherd of the church in America, the day he submitted his resignation, not only did he accept it, but he had another person appointed to take his place.
Yeah.
But yet Cardinal Marx, who's promoting all this apostasy, this heresy, this anti-Catholic, anti-Jesus teaching, oh, no, let's just let him keep on doing what he's doing. Isn't that what they did in the scandal? No, it doesn't matter that they're child molesters. We're going to let them stay. We're going to let them have their faculties. They didn't take away the faculties of child molesters, and yet they'll come after me, Father Parker, Father Lowell, all these other good priests, right? So why do they do it? Because they can't stand us, because we convict them of the truth.
Yeah. And it takes so much humility to take the position that you and other traditional priests take, where they say, look, as humans, we are broken and we need this divine standard that we have through scripture to hold ourselves accountable. And we're going to actually go out and do that and try to live according to scripture. But it takes a lot of arrogance and humanism to do what they do and say, look, I don't want to change my own life, so I'm going to bend scripture to my will. It's really a conflict of humility and humanism. And
do life for me would be a lot easier if there were no lines painted on the side of the road, let's say, to stay inside these lines, that I had a standard that I have to strive to live up to, which I fail constantly. If I didn't have to be reminded of that every day, life would be simpler, wouldn't it? If I could just say, I can do whatever I please. Listen, because this is just a short step from Cardinal Marx and the German bishop saying we're going to bless these sinful relationships to I can be in them too. And it's not a sin. Do you see?
Yeah.
It's not.
And once
they remove all sin, but Jesus then and as a consequence, then they remove Jesus as a savior. Because if we don't sin, we don't need salvation. We don't need a savior. Do you see what they've done? They've gotten rid of Jesus. As I said, it's godless, become one world government, one world religion, all godless. Right.
And once you do that, once you take that step, there's really no going back. And, obviously I'm a conservative guy, and this is the fundamental thing of conservatism is once you cross the Rubicon, you can never uncross it. Once you adulterate a tradition, that tradition is adulterated forever. You're never going to go back. You can try, but history shows that it's not going to happen. It's tainted now.
And I'll tell you when it does happen. Well, it does happen when there's a cataclysm that drives people to their knees. And, it's true. And throughout history, or else they just die, like in the Great Flood, which they tried to deny, even though, Jesus talked about it. Yeah. So if you believe in Jesus, by definition, you must believe the Great Flood took place. Yeah. So there's just, if you don't believe it, then you don't believe in Jesus either. And then quit pretending to be a Christian. Certainly quit pretending to be a Catholic.
Yeah. It's very frustrating. We've covered a lot of ground tonight, We've talked about your individual struggles. We've talked about how people should be earmarking their funds to support their parish and not corrupt church leaders. We've talked about where people can consume honest coverage of these issues, LifeSite News, others. We've talked about the issues more broadly, Satanism in the church. I'm very glad to hear that you're going to be coming out with this book at some point. A lot of ground. If you want to leave us with one closing message that sort of sums up all we've discussed tonight, that's a big task, but what would it be?
By the way, nice summation. I wasn't paying attention to myself, but you did it. We did talk about those things. It strikes me that, and if it strikes me, it probably strikes most people, that it surely seems as if Jesus is sleeping in the back of the boats. How long, Lord, how long is this going to continue? How many more babies need to die? How many more children need to be abused? How many more good priests need to be sidelined? When, Lord, are you going to step in and say, enough's enough, right? Wake up. I mean, that's what we all want him to just wake up. But here's the thing. In the end, clearly this is too big of a problem for any one of us to solve. It's so big. Only God, only Jesus himself can solve this. And he usually does through cataclysm. So that's why I always say, build your temporal arcs, be prudent with your temporalities. Build your spiritual arcs, more importantly, so that should you be a casualty in this big casual battle, then, well, you know where you're going then to heaven. So just remember, Jesus is not asleep. He's well aware. His eyes and ears are open. He knows what's going on, and he will fix it in his time and in his way. Our job isn't to fix it, nor is our job to get frustrated when it isn't being fixed quite fast enough for our liking. So Okay, just make sure you're holy. By the way, can I just one with related to that? Then you talked about the speck in the eye and whatever, the plank.
Yeah.
That is misused by the left-wing Marxists to say we should not judge. Oh, no, that's not what Jesus was presenting that parable about. And if you understand that parable along with remember that Pharisee goes up to the front and he says, oh, thank God I'm not like those sinners back there. I'm a good guy. Right?
Yeah.
So that's what that's all about. It's that you can say, hey, that's bad behavior. We're called to judge bad behavior every day. And if we don't do it, then we're personally responsible for not informing them of the bad behavior. What we don't say, and what Jesus was trying to teach us, is don't be self-righteous about it. Don't like, I'm so good. Because I have said many more times than I can count, and I'll say it to the day I die, I'm the worst sinner in the room. And I believe that. It's a struggle every day. And sometimes just to wear the collar, like the burden of the collar is huge. They would actually be doing, I don't want to say it that way. It sounds terrible, but let's just say that it's a burden.
Yeah, sure.
But it reminds me every day. In fact, when you first start in seminary, you don't wear clerics, right? And then there comes a point in any particular seminary has the date that they start doing this, where you suddenly put on the clerics for the first time, and you go out in public in clerics, or you just put them on. It is transformative, because this is a reminder every moment is on what God has called you to do. You notice there was this one picture where McCarrick had his arm around this boy. It was so creepy. It was at a beach or something. They were in swimsuits. Notice he wasn't in clerics at the time, right?
Yeah.
You put the clerics on, it kind of constrains your, hopefully it constrains your behavior. It's one of those signs and symbols that impact you. It's formation. It actually forms you. I have a lifetime of formation yet to go, and I'm probably not going to get there. That's why I need the sacrament of reconciliation. See, I went rambling again, but that all was pertinent. Jesus is aware.
Yeah.
And just realize that your job is to fix you, but that does not mean that you don't say something about somebody else. And it's not the plank in the eye business, your own plank. It's that just don't do it in a self-righteous way. Just say, this is error, shepherds, when you lock the church. I'm not being self-righteous. That's error. And yeah.
So it's wrong to use calling out errors as a means to glorify yourself. But if you're just calling out the error for the sake of calling out the error, this is acceptable.
Oh, it's not. It's a duty.
Yeah.
It's actually, I have a 5-page set of sacred scripture that I compiled. I'm supposed to send it to somebody that I've put in bulletins about our duty to warn others. It's our duty. It's not even a choice, but they use it. Oh, you're being so judgmental. No, I'm not. I'm trying to warn you and save your eternal soul. So
yeah, absolutely. That's a good summation. It's a good summation. It's a good closing message. Before we sign off for the viewers here, Father, could you lead us in a prayer?
Sure. Let us pray. As always, to our blessed Mother who loves us and from whom Jesus has to listen. In nomine Patris et Filii Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Remember, O most gracious Virgin Mary, that never was it known that anyone who fled to thy protection, implored thy help, or sought thy intercession was left unaided. Inspired by this confidence, I fly into thee, O Virgin of Virgins, my mother. To thee do I come, before thee I stand, sinful and sorrowful. O Mother of the Word incarnate, despise not my petitions, but in thy mercy hear and answer me. Amen. The Lord be with you. And you say,
and with your spirit. Yep, and with your spirit.
And through the intercession of the Holy Family, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, may Almighty God bless you all, the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you very much, Father.
You're welcome.
You can rewatch this interview anytime. It'll be on the Alpha News Facebook page. Thank you, Father, for the time, as always. And thank you, viewers, for tuning in. Have a good night, and God bless.
God bless.